wonderful, I guess.
Yeah, so there's a lot of them
I
coming
think
in.
we can leave a message with the people that if they want to converse, they can chat in the chat box rather than waiting for the mic to get unmuted. So that will be easier for them.
Yes.
I think that will be the best.
Yes.
And
Good start.
we can get started. Hi, Kuhu. Good to see you. And I think we can get started. And Ashley, you will be admitting everyone who's in the waiting room
Yes.
as we go. Thank you everyone for joining us today to the second Digital Power of Women conference. And this Zoom room is created, actually it was created in partnership or in collaboration with Uttarakhand, state of Uttarakhand, which is a very progressive state and really growing so much in technology.
Let me mute.
Yeah.
You have to unmute yourself now, host.
Yes, so today we have, I'm going to start with, I know Dr. Durgesh, you're very busy, but Dr. Durgesh is a government representative. He is the Director General of UCOST, representing the state of Uttarakhand for India government. And we have Dr. Reema, who is a professor, and she is a representative of Power of Women in the state of Uttarakhand in India. They are connected to many, many universities and thousands of students some of them are going to be joining here. And then we also have Virginia Littlejohn. She is the co-head of the US delegation for the W20. And she is absolutely a remarkable female leader who is doing so many things. So I'll let her share that. And then we also have Kuhu. She's an artist as well as she has a tech background. She has a background in STEM. She's going to be sharing some information about her art, as well as you can ask her questions on technology. She works for NVIDIA. She's an engineer at NVIDIA. Please correct me if I'm not correct. And we also have Ashley as well, my co-host. So thank you, everyone. Welcome. And please ask any questions you have in the chat box. We were supposed to have a government representative from Brazil to talk to all of you. And he just messaged me saying he's in the middle of all the leaders arriving right now in Rio. And sends his regards. And I would let all of us start now. And Dr. Rima and Ashley, please go ahead.
Yes. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. This is very exciting to have all of you to be able to be here and meet with you all. I'm just going to run through the agenda real quick so that we keep things moving. So we are going to get started. Shanali just introduced our lovely speakers, and I'm going to go ahead and just tell you that we're going to get started with Dr. Durgesh. If Dr. Durgesh can speak a little bit, and then followed by Dr. Rima. And then we will have Her Excellency Fatoumata, who is the former VP of the Gambia. So I'll check if she's in here already. And then we will have Miss lovely Virginia Littlejohn. And then we're going to have Miss Kuhu join and speak. And then we're going to have a Q&A. For all of you to ask our speakers any questions. As Shanali mentioned, let's use the chat with any questions that you have. So we have a great program ahead, and let's get started. So we can first go with hearing from from Dr. Durgesh.
Good evening from India, and wonderful to have connected with you all. Thank you, Leslie. Thanks, Shanali. Thanks, Virginia, all of you in Kuhuk. And all of you, because G20 is social and power of women, because already we have had a couple of meetings, and last year's presidency since now it is Brazil. So it is so very wonderful to have you around, and little brief from our side round, because I started my this thing voyage with regard to digital technologies. It was year 89, 1989. It was the year when this WWW was taking off. But in this part of Himalayas, because this Uttarakhand, this is out of many, states. This one is this is hello. Yes. Am I audible?
Yeah, you
You
are.
are, yes. We just have to mute everybody else.
Yeah, because the
Dr. Durgesh, can you unmute yourself kindly? We cannot
yes,
hear
yes.
you. There you go.
Yeah,
Perfect.
there is goes. Because there are vice chancellors, there are students, and there are so many students, and with high degree of expectations, and especially from policy and governance point of view. So this is quite critical, and especially from a place which happens to be in a very difficult geography. And since Himalayas is not only as the third pole as the water tower of this entire region, but from the point of view of a very, very fragile geography. So, but today we will talk, in terms of economy. We will talk from the point of ecology, from the point of technology, and from the point of sustainability. How these four quadrants, they can live in sync with the with the governance, with the policy making. So I was talking about, our journey, because I started my voyage. It was year 89 when WWW was really taking off. We started with one university, that is Kumaon University, and we started with one program, and especially meant for women. And women were there always at the core of computing. They were at the core of technologies, because technology is something that enables them. Because these are difficult geographies, you cannot reach out to them. The physical roads, other things, those are not there. But through technology, not only we could empower them, we could enable them, we could provide them with resources, and most of all, the kind of knowledge power that they could inherit, that they could develop, it was phenomenal. So I could see that, in late 80s, early 90s also, we started with something very, very interesting, because before STEM, we had this thing, it was ODL, open and distance learning. We could see in different remote villages of this state. In order to reach out to them, we introduced technology enabled education. Those were satellite based, SITs, satellite interactive terminals. Those were read only terminals. Through them we could reach out to them, and we could see the transformation, because it enabled them. It had something with them. It was before mobile. So this all happened, and then it was late 90s, and then with the turn of the century, this was 21st century coming in, and everybody carrying that mobile, and then it was this advent of from e-governance and moving on to m-governance. So this was the digital power, not only that enabled them, women women, are girls, but at the same time, this could do a lot of transformation. Today, we are there, in the midst of, when we say 5 years down the line, we will have quantum coming in. And at the 5 years down the line, we know for certain, with this combination of AI and quantum, these two things, these two verticals are going to change the scenario altogether. We know about what is happening. Be it Google's quantum mission, or be it this IBM's quantum mission, all around everywhere. Our state also, we are also preparing ourselves, for this quantum readiness. But before that, what has all happened through mobile, through technology enabled education, to all these apps, to all these learning algorithms, to all these personalized learning called AI. How can we really empower them? This is one very, very important thing. And we have succeeded, because there are many vice chancellors, there are many educators, there are many policy makers part of this entire discussion, this group. So this is going to be something very interesting, and from the whole world, and especially for ones, those who are residing in very, very difficult geography, and for those who are really disadvantaged. This is number one. With regard to ecology, I would just like to highlight a couple of points, because we talk in terms of GDP, this gross domestic product, and all our developmental measures are there. The indicator being GDP, how good our GDP, we are pretty happy about it. Virginia will be in agreement with me because this is GDP that we take, note of. But we in Uttarakhand, we realize that, the kind of soil we are losing out, the forest we are losing out, the air quality that is deteriorating, the water level, the water table that is dwindling further. It has to have, these factors, these things got to be factored in all our developmental processes. So government of Uttarakhand introduced this thing called GEP, Gross Environment Product. And now this is also part of our policy making. We're saying because ultimately these are the women. Not only they are there in the villages, sustaining families, sustaining societies, sustaining all our ecosystem, but at the same time, they are the ones who take care of our environmental issues. So there it goes. So this from the point of ecology, this is something very important. How can we factor in the GEP factor with regard to our policy making? Technology part, yes, of course it is there, but with newer technologies coming in, be it quantum, be it AI, be it blockchain, in order to really rid off, all the intermediaries and the kind of corruption, other things, all those practices, how can we really take care of it? This is going to be again one very, very important factor. And the most important factor in this is at governance level. So what we have done from our side is from council side, S&T intervention and OT levels. Technology can do a lot of good. Scientific approach, understanding that can do a lot of good. Innovation and innovative practices, the traditional knowledge that our societies have. This is going to have a bearing on our overall developmental landscape. That is what is, I mean, that is was the need of the hour. This is to be understood. And at all different levels, this understanding, if it goes across, this is going to, this is going to be something fantastic. Along all these lines, we have introduced from our side STEM. You will be very happy to know we have 95 blocks in this state, and out of most of the blocks have been covered with STEM education. In each block, we're putting in those STEM labs and lady teachers, and we have one phenomenal program. You can Google it. I mean, you can find out from our website. This is She for STEM, enabling women and these all, I mean, girls, and empowering them through STEM education. And each, because these are difficult geographies, so labs on wheel, those mobile labs equipped with, all those hands-on, this thing. This is what we have done, and there are many, many such initiatives that we have from our side given. But S&T, we have taken always at the, at that happens to have the centrality. The nucleus is STI, science, technology, innovation, because not only that sustains, that keeps us going, but at the same time, that happens to have the core. So these are my starting, viewpoints, and something fantastic, because we organize a couple of G20 and especially G20 social programs. Dr. Rima organizes, she keeps going, and there are vice chancellors we have from different universities, and you will be very happy. Over a population about 11 million out in this part, we have more than 40 universities. We have close to 600 colleges. We have about 24,000 schools. And again, very, very happy, and this applaud I'll need, because most, majority of these students are girls. So that is this women power, and Uttarakhand stands out. The state was created because we happen to have women leaders like Chipko movement. If you Google Chipko, we have just had 51 years of Chipko movement, again led by a lady, Gaura Devi. So the state has in its DNA women force, women power, women, this empowerment. With these words, thank you very much. And this initiative of yours, this is going to go a long way with extension with regard to other technologies, other things. But there we are with you all, because ultimately, if we need this planet to survive, thrive, we need to have this power. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Durgesh. I think that you covered some incredible points, and some of the points I'm sure some of our viewers didn't know. And thank you, Uttarakhand, for taking part. So UCOST, along with all the universities in Uttarakhand, state of Uttarakhand, has been a part of for the past few months, working with G20 social hosting events to really bring everybody together. which was shared with G20 Social in their final communique to the president and the G20 leaders that's going this week, today and tomorrow. So thank you for hosting us. And Dr. Durgesh, you shared, we have a lot of students from Uttarakhand that we are going to be bringing on with the power of women, and we have our representative, we're all working together. So thank you for sharing that. And I would like to actually, Dr. Reema, you want to share some words, and would love for Virginia to join as well afterwards.
Yes, thank you, Shinali. Thank you, G20, and thank you, this entire forum of digital power of women, which has given such a wonderful, wonderful platform for us to connect with the rest of the world. So, thank you, Virginia, for being here, because as I was told by Shanali that, what you're going to connect with the students may be something that they are looking forward to. With this, you see what basically Dr. Durgesh has already spoken about what initiatives the state is taking. But what I'm going to talk about here is share with you a little bit of what, as an educator, I've been doing, and what I'm looking forward to rest of the educators, because I know a lot of universities have joined, and they have been very excited, and they took up this call very quickly. I mean, I was not expecting, but it was really overwhelming. Thank you, all the universities and all the heads of universities who are here on this digital platform today, because I feel what we have got right now as a digital platform today is something which is very essential in today's time. Otherwise, we are living in an isolated world, in an isolated part. And this is how I look at Uttarakhand. When I look at it a couple of decades back, then I see that it was a place which was, if I say India was a couple of decades behind rest of the world, or the global south has always been, as we say, the state of Uttarakhand had been still a couple of decades behind rest of the country. So you can understand what I'm talking about. So if you did not have this kind of power, this digital power, then probably we would still be in a very, in a world which was not equal, a world which is not flat. It would be a world which would be divided completely. And still that divide is very apparent when I try to compare the technologies or the lifestyle which the West has or the global North has to the global South. It is different. Within the country, the metropolitans have a different world altogether than the B and the C tier cities. And then within them, the towns and cities again go. And when we finally come to a point where I'm talking about the mountain state like Uttarakhand, then we are really very far behind. Today itself, I was reading about this amazing woman in one of the border districts. There's a village, and she's the only woman who stays in that ghost village. And she is 80 years old, and she was discovered by a group of filmmakers who wanted to make a film in that place. So you can imagine a single woman living in just miles of mountains and greenery. So this is how the state of Uttarakhand actually is. Every village could be just 2 or 4 homes. And 2 villages are distant by 2 peaks of mountain, which would take kilometers to go. And then not every place would have connectivity for people to, talk to each other. So at this place, when the initiatives that have been taken by the state, as you were told by Dr. Pant, have definitely made way. But when now we are getting a platform to connect with others across the world and bring them to the state, where these young generation was sitting here today, if they understand this and take this up sincerely and try and connect further with people who are still disadvantaged in the state, then I think we will be able to grow everybody together, because that is what teamwork is, that is what collaboration is, that is what helps people come up together. Because in the world, I feel that we cannot grow isolated. If I have to grow, then I need all the resources, and all resources are shared. Nature shares everything. It cannot give isolated privileges to people. So when it gives and it shares, then also we need to share. And I think this digital platform makes it very simpler and easier. As an educator, I've been pushing for interdisciplinary education, because I feel you cannot study it. And I can see Kuhu is here, who is a STEM person herself and can understand if you do not have understanding of different subjects. And I would say rather even social science, which is so very important component, because if you do not understand people, if you do not understand their culture, then you cannot give them technology and you cannot give them understanding of education because it doesn't fit into their system. And sometimes if it does, then it is catastrophic because it takes away their originality and their culture. And last time when we did this program, you heard, you heard about those 3 old women. They're almost 80 years old, and they lived their life, and their problems and their issues, they were so painful. When they could see this transition from the traditional systems to modern systems where their things were getting lost and their ecology is shattering, and they were not, they were not able to come in terms with the fact that this is how things are changing so fast in front of them. So I think the technology that we'll talk today and we are going to bring in eventually should be able to bring, conserve this culture in such a way that it does not destroy while it takes us forward. Because climate is anyways changing. These people are going to see destruction, but can we have technology which can push back destruction, push back and make it more resilient, make it more conducive, and make it more harmonious? That is what I feel is important. So as an educator, I feel these are the things if we could take, and taking cues from people like you sitting over there, or those you people who can mentor our children, to take up, because you have already seen what happens when you go very fast pace in technology. There are things which are happening now in the US and in the Europe where they're trying to bring in traditional and conservation systems because they were lost somewhere. So I feel if we can take those learnings from you and move forward, then we will be able to save this. Just like Brazil, because the G20 is happening in Brazil this year. Just like Brazil, India too has a large tribal population, and Himalayan region, because we come from here, is as sensitive an ecosystem as the Amazonian forests in South America. So you see, these kind of extremely unique and important or significant ecosystems need to be conserved. But how do they get conserved? What technology do we bring? Because climate is changing and we are not able to control it. So what do we do? Where do we find the balance? So these are very important questions which come. So how does technology help culture, help social systems, and help community to grow, to take up jobs for the future, so that they're able to be climate resilient as well as they're able to contain their culture and social systems. So this is what I look at, because see, again, another thing which is happening, World Economic Forum recently is saying that we cannot stop cyber threats. They will come, and they will come even at a faster pace. Now, if you imagine there is a society where you have a digital intervention, but not enough understanding to prevent a cyber crime, it can be catastrophic. And this happens in places when you go to villages, especially girls who suffer from cyberbullying, who suffer with frauds. So there's a whole lot of things happening. Digital arrests, which are happening so commonly in India nowadays, So these are kind of things that need understanding, they need backing up, they need support from other places so that these people grow, they become more mature and smarter to be able to handle these kind of situations. So with this, I will thank you again once more. Thank you, Shanali. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Virginia and Kuhu, for listening to me. And thanks to all the people who joined today from Uttarakhand, to all the educators and all senior vice chancellors who come. I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being here and listening to this. And I hope to take away a lot from you. And of course, Digital Power of Women, this platform, I would wish that we work together for more and longer and better, uh, 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 you know, uh, issues, so that we bring up the global south. Now it is growing, of course, but we want to bring it up even further so that the world becomes much flatter and much even as it is now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me see.
I think you're muted.
Is it?
There
There
you
you
go.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rima. I think you shared some very important points. So I won't take too much time, but I will connect some of the things you said with the technology growing, a lot of culture is getting left behind. How can we conserve it? With technology growing, how can we use tech? We have to power the technology that's growing. So we have to think about environmental conservation and how are we supplying energy to the technology advancements we are progressing through. And that's where the environment technology entrepreneurship gets tied in, because this is the sector that's growing very fast and the whole world is focused on. How can we create sustainable solutions? So when you're creating sustainable solutions, you need entrepreneurs who are thinking very innovatively. Like Dr. Durgesh said, STI, Science, Technology, Innovation, to come up with solutions. So I would love for Virginia to share her piece on this, because I think this is very much connected, all these subjects.
You're muted.
Thanks so much, Shonali. Now I've lost my speech. Hold on just a minute. I serve as co-head of the U.S. delegation to the Women 20 of the G20 countries, also as co-chair of the Women's Entrepreneurship Working Group. Over the years, I have been enormously focused on empowering women entrepreneurs, leveraging technologies, and coming up with solutions to create a more equitable and sustainable world. As the Boston Consulting Group reported in 2019, achieving equal participation of women and men in entrepreneurship could add up to $5 trillion or 6% to global GDP annually. Progress toward this goal was slowed down by the pandemic and recovering from the pandemic. And today, women-owned businesses make up only 1/3 of enterprises worldwide. Closing both the gender gap and finance gap and facilitating women's access to markets, especially through gender-responsive public procurement by governments, can fuel the growth of women-led businesses and social enterprises. And there are many women interested in social enterprises, driving economic impact in the trillions of dollars. And by the way, I think the $5 trillion is low, because that was 5 years ago and we've had inflation.
53.
In the area of women's entrepreneurship and climate action, today I want to spotlight the incredible opportunities that exist at the intersection of women's entrepreneurship and climate action. Women around the world are uniquely positioned to help drive the green transition because we care about both the planet we live on. We get water from the planet, we get food from the planet, we feed our families, and we care about the future because of our children and grandchildren. That's our special added value. Also, women bring fresh perspectives, fresh lenses, and innovative approaches to solving the climate crisis, from renewable energy to waste management and sustainable agriculture, all issues that are really important in India. Consider some of the exciting emerging opportunities. In green technology, startups in India are making tremendous strides in renewable energy, providing affordable solar panels for rural communities. These efforts bring power to areas that were once off the grid, while also reducing carbon emissions. Another huge area is waste management innovations. Companies are turning waste into value by recycling materials and promoting a circular economy. This not only reduces environmental pollution, but also creates job opportunities. Another area is eco-friendly packaging. As consumer demand for sustainable alternatives grow, businesses are stepping up, creating biodegradable packaging that meets environmental standards while generating profit. And then there's climate smart agriculture. Projects focused on precision irrigation and organic farming are revolutionizing how we conserve water and helping to lead these efforts, demonstrating that climate and profits are not mutually exclusive. We also see women harnessing bioenergy to transform waste into economic opportunities. One inspiring example from India involves a female entrepreneur who implemented bioenergy solutions to manage local waste, thereby reducing pollution and uplifting her entire community. Opportunities like these underscore the immense potential women have to turn climate challenges into entrepreneurial opportunities and social enterprises. Investing in sectors like green technology, the circular economy, and climate smart agriculture is not just about preserving our planet. It's very much about uplifting entire communities and creating a resilient economic future. So now I want to shift to the role of technology and AI. The rapid advancements we've seen are game changers for women entrepreneurs. These tools are leveling the playing field, offering unprecedented opportunities to launch and scale businesses with meaningful environmental impacts and the ability to solve many, many problems that we have today. There's also a downside, as Dr. Rima said, we need to pay a great deal of attention to monitoring things effectively, creating guardrails, creating appropriate regulations. And right now, I think we are not doing a real great job of regulating the criminal environment, the misinformation environment, etc. I very much hope that women will play a key role in doing that, including the importance of cybersecurity. But on the positive side, which I'll be talking about with the rest of my comments, optimizing energy consumption of smart grids, making renewable energy distribution more efficient and waste-free, critical. And consider how predictive analytics can transform agriculture. By anticipating weather patterns, farmers can optimize crop planting, conserving both water and soil. For 10 years, I've worked on some high growth initiatives for women-owned businesses in the United States, and working many years ago with IBM Watson, we came up with some initiatives along these lines for women-owned businesses and farmers in a poor area of California with immigrant farmers. Enormous potential with linking digital AI and ultimately quantum computing as that becomes stronger and stronger. AI can also help manage waste much more efficiently, sorting materials for recycling and minimizing landfill. Women in entrepreneurship can harvest these innovations to tackle climate challenges head on. Using AI for climate resilience means accessing data-driven insights to prepare for disruptions and safeguard communities. With the right support, these tech tools can be great equalizers, breaking barriers and empowering women to innovate on a global scale. But here's the critical point. Women must have a seat at the policy-making table. So the linkage between digital power of women, the G20, the Women's 20, the Social 20 is really important. Our voices are essential in shaping how technology and AI are used to address climate issues and numerous other problems that we need to solve. We must advocate for policies that ensure equitable access to these resources and that prioritize sustainability. Imagine a world where more women in STEM and entrepreneurship collaborate to develop AI solutions for climate resilience. This is the future we must fight for, one where women are not only participants, but equal leaders in the green and digital future. While finance is not our main focus today, it's crucial to acknowledge its role as a catalyst. Access to blended finance, which combines public, private, and philanthropic investments, is key to supporting women-led climate and tech ventures. Innovative financial models can provide the capital needed to launch groundbreaking ideas and scale them sustainably. We must continue advocating for financial frameworks that ensure the empowerment of women and ensure that women have the resources to make a difference. Finance is an enabler, unlocking the potential of entrepreneurial and climate-driven solutions. Now to all of the students listening, engagement and advocacy. Your voices and action have immense power. You are the change makers, the future leaders who will drive innovation and transformation. Engage in policy advocacy. Push for gender equity and climate action. Collaborate with your peers to create supportive ecosystems where women can thrive. Never underestimate the power of collective action. When women unite, we can shape policy, influence change, and create inclusive and sustainable futures. Your education, networks, and passions can become tools for global impact. In closing, let's remember that today you are equipped not only to dream, but to act. Use your skills, your drive, and your knowledge to innovate, advocate, and lead with purpose. Every effort counts in our quest for a greener, more inclusive world for us, for our children, our grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Together, we can harness the digital power of women to lead the way to a sustainable and equitable future. Thank you, and I look forward to the incredible impact that each one of you will make on the world.
That was just incredible. I think there's so many people who want to ask you questions, Virginia, but I think you said something very important. There are so many vice chancellors and educators, students on this call. We will pick some of you to come and actually say a few comments as well, like Dr. Dharam Buddhi. What I want to say is, please, after this conversation, we have Dr. Rima, who is the representative. Connect with her. We are building this network of educators and colleges from around the world for us to connect like this and actually collaborate. This is just the first step. And thank you, Virginia. You covered some incredible points. And I know, Kuhu, you are going to be speaking next. And we are going to open up the floor for everybody to ask questions. Did Dr. Rima, you want to make a comment before that?
Thank you to Virginia, because it was just wonderful hearing you. And yes, what you summarized was actually true. This is what we are hoping from the young students who are here and from our universities to, bridge this gap and bring. They're already in process, but like it hastens, because now the jobs have to be looked from the perspective that Kuhu is going to speak about, STEM based, more organized, more interconnected. So that is what we are. And of course, we look for your support. As you said, we are so happy that we'll be able to connect with you. And maybe many of the children here would like to also take mentoring from people across. So hopefully that is what we will look forward to.
Thank you.
And I will mention real quick on the chat, I shared a document that Virginia had put together for all the students. It's an FAQ and resource sheet with more information on any opportunities available. So I'll go ahead and share that on the chat again.
If I could just say very briefly, I am not really a sustainability expert. I'm an entrepreneurship and advocacy expert. So I did not have time to check everything on the document in terms of links and so forth, but I thought 80% accuracy was good enough for today. I can clean it up afterwards and share it with Shinali and Ashley, and they can distribute it. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia, for putting that, because that's something we wanted to provide all the students and the faculty that's here. We will actually clean up, like Virginia said, and we will use this platform to share knowledge and resources and educational material like this. So thank you, Virginia, for doing that. And we're excited to hear from you, Kuhu.
Hi, okay, I found my unmute button. How about that? Hi, everybody. I'm actually very thrilled after Virginia's talk, because it touched upon pretty much everything that that needed to be touched on, essentially. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, let me start sharing again.
Yes, if I will just kindly ask for anybody who's using the whiteboard to please just not use it right now. Thank you so much.
Right, I'm gonna share my sound. All right, okay. Do you guys see, which screen do you see? Hold on. I'm having the classic tech problem. I have 3 screens here. Okay, this will work. So today, actually, before we get into the technical aspect of the presentation, I want to talk about my recent work with Varli. So Varli is an ancient art form, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I also experiment with language models and how that creative expression can be super helpful. Before we get started, let me see if I can get.
Let's see. Maybe you need to reshare, Kuhu. Sorry. I think somebody is using the whiteboard. I'm not sure who. Please do not use the whiteboard if anybody is using it.
And if you're trying to Zoom, don't do that. I think that.
Yes, so you might have to reshare it again.
Okay, let's try
Why
again.
don't we do a screen share so nobody can write on it,
It is
perhaps?
a screen share.
It is a screen share, yeah, but and the whiteboard is supposed to be disabled.
Okay.
All right, let's try again. And if it is screen share, then we all get to doodle, which is super fun. So before we get started, I wanted to talk a little bit about myself. Let's see, hold on.
We can see the names of people who are writing it. You know, we get a list of it, so we would really request for you to not doodle on it, so we can all see it. Thank you.
All right. So I'm a senior software engineer at NVIDIA in the Midwest part of the US in Champaign, Illinois. And I work on the Apache Spark GPU acceleration team. And I've been working on big data platforms for a few years. How do we solve this problem?
We might have to stop
Okay.
sharing it.
Yes,
because
I don't know how we can stop this because it's on my end.
I think it will be
Disabled.
sad, but we'll have to remove the person who's doing this in case you can see that, Shanali. It will
Oh,
bring you a
disable
bad.
annotation for others.
Yes.
You know what? I'm going to try now. Hold on. I found it. I think I found it. Hold on.
Okay.
File number 4 is always the right one. Hold on. Okay, so like I was saying, I work on the Apache Spark GPU acceleration team, and I've been working on big data platforms for a few years, about 8 years. I'm the project manager chair member of the Apache test project as well in the open source community. The Apache community is kind of well known for keeping enterprise level projects open for the world to contribute into. It's a very male dominated world, and we can talk a little bit about that later. But I'm originally from Jaipur, Rajasthan, one of the most beautiful cities in India. And I've been in the US for over a decade now. It doesn't feel real. I love to sing Indian classical music, which I don't do enough of lately. And I love to paint Varli with the female psyche and perspective at the center of it, which I've been doing a lot more of. I enjoy learning to paint the Tlingit Haida style from the Pacific Northwest, which is an unbelievably amazing culture here in the US, very akin to a lot of our tribal cultures back home in India. So that really resonated with me, and some of that shows in my art, and overall in general, I just follow that culture closely. I also am into amateur astronomy, hiking the mountains, and watching and dreaming about whales. I don't know why, I really like whales. Okay, so moving on, let me give you a brief introduction to Varli. Varli is, as a lot of you might already know, it's a very big part of our lives. It's an ancient art form from central India, Maharashtra state, and it was invented by women more than 2,500 years ago. And it got the eye of the Western world around the 70s, but it's been used for millennia to depict everyday scenes of life. Even though it's an ancient art form, it never really got deprecated. It's a big part of our cottage industry. It's used on silk, on cotton, on our potteries, on our house walls, and on our sculptures. And it's unified the female spirit, at least in my opinion, with nature and everyday expression. It is a simple yet powerful form of expressing the true strength of being human, being a woman, and all the complexities that come with it. How did I get into Varli? Well, that's a longer question, but most of my work with Varli focuses beyond the everyday scenes of life. I use Varli to give expression to the inner workings of the mind and the human condition, which seems more precarious than ever. We are lonelier than ever. There is a lot of online bullying. Our representation in leadership roles is dwindling. We rely on tech from getting our food to being our assistant at work to decide how we feel about a group of people or a country. And once I walk through my artwork, I can also show how tech and AI tools drive our perceptions when we look at something. Not always for the good, not always for the bad. My inspiration for the following pieces comes from Jungian school of psychology and thought, and how our shadows, which are essentially different parts of ourselves, can empower us to express these struggles and find a path to not only common consciousness, but leadership, to find our inner leader unapologetically. And every one of us have it. It's not just a woman thing. It's not even just a male thing. All humans have that inner leader. And to be able to find that expression through art was kind of important to me. And it helps us navigate the structures and challenges that exist externally by empowering what's inside of us. So I'll just jump into some paintings. I know it's really early in the morning for us and really late and probably a little late in the evening for you guys. So I hope everybody's caffeinated. I'll quickly walk through some paintings and then we'll get into the more interesting bit. So this one I call When the Sun Decides to Join Us. It's acrylic on canvas, and it's a scene of a very nuclear contemporary family, but a complete family enjoying their day in the sun, despite the disarray of every day. Raising families, raising kids in this society is incredibly hard and challenging, and we Google everything. From parenting to how to make the right recipe for their kid to get enough protein. And this painting highlights how there is a moment of joy possible, even in the most nuclear settings of upbringing, and how the dance never really has to stop. The second one is one of my favorites. I call it The Essential Me Untouched. Here I'm using Varli as an attempt to show how we have the essential version of ourselves hidden behind the curtains of norms, judgment, people, and nonetheless untouched and powerful. it acknowledges what makes up the essential one as well, which is our shadows, the different parts of us that equip our inner leader. The more outward struggle manifests, so does the opportunity for a self to be strengthened and empower their life force. To find my own voice, I had to turn inward first. And as you can see, I see more female, I use more female shadows in the Varley lines than male to kind of show the masculine shadows of a woman that Carl Jung talks about, and how integrating those aspects of ourselves complete us and drive leadership. So Carl Jung actually talks about how when people reach psychological maturity, which is not at the age of 18, by the way, it's much later, it's in the 40s, that when we start integrating the other gender aspects of ourselves, that it makes us a natural leader. And Carl Jung did a lot of work on archetypes for people who are interested in psychology. He was the counterpart of Freud, and he came up with the idea of extroverted and introverted personalities and how archetypes can go beyond cultures, that all humans have a common consciousness. This one I call the inevitable growth. Like Dr. Rima was saying, in nature, everything is shared and so is growth. It's inevitable. Whether we like it or not, it's going to find us. And here I have tried to integrate the quintessential Haida tradition into the Varley art of showing a woman who is undergoing the inevitable growth from her circumstances. This is an experiment that I'm working with, so stay tuned. And the next one is called Saat Phere, which essentially translates to the 7 marital vows that we take around fire when Hindus get married. And in this painting, instead of getting married to the outside world, the self is marrying the shadows, and they choose each other and take the vows of togetherness, bringing trials as well as growth. The fire leads way to growth, into saplings, into plants. It can be a lot to get through in 7 minutes, but I hope you're all with me. The last one is singular love and devotion, where I try and depict the outside forces that torment a small family, and yet they're able to fight it through the power of absolute love and devotion as they work through early life milestones. The albatross shown actually is a symbol of singular love. It loves only once, and a mother's dedication, along with all the shadows and their tribe, come together to protect what really matters. Now, let's switch it up a little. Why did I show you these paintings? Well, I made them, that's one reason. However, I've been playing with something, and I want you to listen to the following piece. And if you don't hear it, please call it out. Give me one moment.
And as you pull that up, I just want to mention real quick, this meeting was set for 1 hour, and we're almost at time, but we want to make sure we give space for the students to ask questions afterwards. So Kuhu, please go ahead, and we hope you stay with us.
Okay, so next up we have The Essential Me, Untouched. This one, I think this one really gets at her exploration of the shadow self. Would you say that's accurate?
Absolutely. Remember how we talked about Jung in the shadow, Kuhu? She really dives into that here. She writes, this piece attempts to show how we all have the essential version of ourselves inside, hidden behind the curtains of norms, people, and their judgment, nonetheless untouched and powerful. It also acknowledges what makes up the essential one, our shadows.
Wow. Okay. So much to think about there. You can almost feel her like working through those pressures, from society, the expectations we all face. But at the same time, she's saying, hey, there's this true self in here, untouched.
And notice the connection she makes between that essential self and, well, the shadows. It's like she's saying that our shadows, those parts of ourselves we often hide, they're just as much a part of us as anything else.
It's like this powerful statement about accepting yourself, like really accepting all of who you are, shadows and all.
Exactly. And by using Worley, she's taking this idea, this psychological concept that's pretty modern, even Western, and connecting it to this ancient artistic tradition.
It's like she's building a bridge, and art is her language. Okay, so this next one really intrigued me.
Okay, folks, so it seems like I'm really into my art, But actually, this looks like a podcast, doesn't it? And it's an excerpt from a podcast. But what I want to try and show you here, that it is completely generated by AI. So I'm using a language model that is provided through Google on certain occasions, where you can give it exactly what I showed you as source. And these are essentially two AI bots talking about my work. You can program it a little bit to say, hey, use my first name, or emphasize on the fact that you have to read everything on the slide. But essentially, you just heard two AI bots that sound very human to me at the very least, talk about my work. So we can take questions at the end, but this is where we're headed. We have a creative critique in terms of AI bots where we can't even tell the difference between what's human and what's not. They can analyze things. They can not only describe text, but they're able to interpret images at a very deeper level, at the level that they're able to associate Jungian thought with a very ancient art form. And it's a great tool to augment one's expression, as one can see. If we take this to marginalized people, it empowers them. But what if we have no guardrails? Then it only becomes a tool to further propagate popular or majority cultural ideas. It leads to further subjugation, but can it actually be switched on its head to drive outreach and bring it to esoteric forms of art to the global audience? Another thing that I wanted to share here is how much of this is already being used in universities, in schools, where people are doing their homework and their projects using ChatGPT. Does that empower them, or does that create laziness? Does that create a monotone culture? Does that allow for no new ideas to really come through because we almost rely on this tool to speak for us? Or can we actually use it responsibly to avoid mental health and minority-related crises and use it for public good? So I want to end on a note of positivity. It can be used to bridge the gender digital divide, only if we first understand that there is structural bias, since most of the tech is male-driven. I can vouch for that. In big data technology, if there are 100 total committers to a particular code base, only 3 of them or 4 of them at most are women. That's a very appalling number. And as you can see, anything that is sustainable, like Worley, which has survived the tides of time, has done so by it being women-led, by it having the fresh perspective that we were talking about that women bring into any discussion. But we have to kind of combine these tools and look at them differently, knowing what their limitations can be. We have to provide boundaries. We have to talk about ethical use more often than not, and define that not at a country's level, right? Not what US thinks is the ethical use, not what India thinks what the ethical use should be, but to have a more cohesive global picture of what that might even look like. Also, I think in education systems, it's incredibly important to understand what we are up against. AI-driven tools are amazing to drive the truly motivated, creative people. And by creative, I just don't mean people who do art, but also people who write code. But you also want to understand that it has the capacity to create herd thinking and cause lack of originality. So I think as long as we keep our focus on it being a powerful creative assist tool rather than a tool that we just rely on, I think we're up against a revolution here. Thank you so much. And I would take questions now because there's a lot to talk here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kuhu. And I think it's time for us to take some questions. I know we went over time. And Dr. Rima, if you have any comments to make, please do. And we have some vice chancellors you would like to bring up as well.
Yes, just 2 words for Kuhu. It was wonderful because you connected art with AI. And yes, I resonate your concern that a use of AI, and I personally feel, technologies have always been for the good. When they were conceived by anybody, it was for the good. But unfortunately, man's desire for too much leads to very bad consequences. So I really wish your talk will help students refrain from using it in a bad way and use it in a better way, because it can do a lot of good work if it is used for gender equity, for mental health, for differently abled people. So it's a whole new world together.
Thank
So yes,
you.
thank
Yeah,
you.
I completely agree. There's so much here to unpack, actually. I could take the whole hour.
Right.
If anybody has questions for Kuhu or Virginia, please put it in the chat and we would be able to answer them. I know we went over time, but if you want to stay around for a bit more, we would love to answer them. I think we can, Ashley, if you can help with the chat as well, we can look at some of the
Yes.
questions.
Yes, I want to read something from Avedesh. He's saying Kuhu deserves the care you all leaders, Shanali, ma'am, Virginia, Dr. Rima, and others were giving from the beginning. Okay. So
That, yeah,
I
that's a
think it's
comment.
important to point out that the audio I played for you was completely run on the Google data centers. So that's the energy angle to it. Imagine if everybody does it, and they will. What
yes.
happened? There's no real way to even quantify it besides the quarterly reports you get from data centers on how much heat or how much energy they actually produced. In fact, like when you play around with GPUs at the data center level, you almost have to look at the energy consumption. And there are algorithms in place to do that, but it's also a little bit of like napkin math when you get started. When you actually buy something, you don't know how much it's going to take up. So like I have a GPU on my machine at work, and I have to blow 2 fans at it sometimes. I used to own a GPU like that, but I had to have additional fans in my own house so that it did not reach 100 Celsius temperature. So that's a fun tidbit.
We have a question on the chat. Digital art has taken over the traditional art. What do you think would be the mitigation for AI generated art?
I don't think we can mitigate it. I think we can beat it. I think we should let it happen, and we should use tools and anything that's present to bring our original art out there more and more. You draw a longer line in front of a shorter line, because at the end of the day, so let me tell you what I did here. It was a 13-minute podcast. I showed you 1 minute, and I shared it with a bunch of friends at work, my colleagues, and everybody had varied reactions to it. The human mind responds to genuine art, and it can actually tell the difference between AI generated art and human art as long as we train our minds a little bit. There's actually a term for it, which I tried to cover in my presentation, but I skipped over. It's called uncanny valley. When something is very human-like, so much so that it makes you uncomfortable, but you know it's not human-like. And that's exactly what AI does, right? When they make faces of people, you feel a little absurd. So I think the only way to beat it is to take your idea, take your thoughts, take your expression and put it out there. Don't be ashamed. Find your inner leader and put it out there. Use all the tools you can get. I also think that at a policy level, we need to stop doing a lot of like generative things without knowing what impact it has, which I think some tools are starting to do. Like 7 years ago, if you Google something, it might have a lot more racial bias than it does today. It still continues to be there, but as long as we're aware and as long as we know what we're looking at, as long as we train our eye, like how we train our ear to music, I think we will beat this thing.
Thank you. And we also have another question. Virginia talked about the women entrepreneurship issue. So, excuse me, how can we solve this issue? In India, women entrepreneurship rate is very low. So what is your take on this?
I think that it's really important for the government to get behind this as an issue. When India had the G20 presidency, I was involved with the Women's Entrepreneurship Working Group. We had strong recommendations in the communique. In the Leaders' Declaration, the focus was more on women-led development. But I think there are some really important initiatives that would replicate in many ways what we did in the United States in 1988. I was part of, I'm a past president of the National Association of Women Business Owners in the United States. In the early 1980s, I did that. And we created legislation working with our parliament, with our lower house, House of Small Business Committee, to first organize hearings on and then get legislation passed that included not requiring a male relative to sign a woman's business loan, creating a mandate that the Department of Census would count all women-owned businesses, not just sole proprietorships, creating a National Women's Business Council to look at policies related to women's entrepreneurship. We desperately wanted to create an educational mechanism. So we created first 5 women's business centers on a pilot basis. There are now several hundred of them in the United States, in every state. This was 1988 that we held these hearings. And then the 5th thing that we wanted to have in there was access to public procurement. We were not able to get that in. We learned that we were going to lose the entire bill if we had that in at that point. I won't go into the background on it, but it related to bias and so forth. So we decided we would defer on that and try again later, which we now have done. Women-owned businesses in the US now get 5% of a 23% set aside for small businesses. So doing something like that, and one of the things, I also coordinate the action and implementation arm for the Women's 20 on women's entrepreneurship. And we're in the process of working to consolidate a number of best practices that are really important, model legislation, things that can be adopted by other countries. And Brazil has done a brilliant job this year of pushing through the importance of case studies and best practices. So we can share with you some of the things we did with the US. The Brits have also done some really important things. They came up with an initiative, a Women Entrepreneurs Finance Code, which has now gone global. The World Bank has an initiative called the Women Entrepreneurs Finance Initiative, and they have created now a working group that is building out a Women Entrepreneurs Finance Code at the global level. If you can get India to focus on getting the Women Entrepreneurs Finance Code set up, in the UK, they have more than 200 financial institutions that are behind this code. They've been doing it about 4 or 5 years now, and it's just had enormous impact. All of the major banks have gotten behind it, and you can tailor it for the needs of your own country. So it can be finance initiatives that focus on micro enterprises. It can focus on social enterprises with philanthropic funding, etc. But it has the potential to really, really be transformational, in my opinion, if we can share models like a couple that I just mentioned. And then the International Trade Center and UN Women, which are both part of something called the Women's Entrepreneurship Accelerator. There are 6 UN agencies that are really focused on women's entrepreneurship. I have the great pleasure of working very closely with them, and they deal with many different issues. One of the agencies is the UN Development Program. They work on development issues, so that would align with India's interests. The UN International Telecommunications Agency is focused on STEM, AI, things like that. So linking into those entrepreneurship ecosystems, using the G20 as a vehicle for learning and sharing best practices and so forth, and intelligently using I use 5 different AI platforms. The one I use mostly for research is called Perplexity AI, and I use it much more than I use Google right now in terms of research. So those things I think are enormously important. But I just want to say one thing in terms of what Kuhu said. Everything you were talking about, Kuhu, I felt was so important. I am also a Jungian in orientation. I'm a former dean of students at a graduate training program in psychology. I am enormously right-brained. I'm hugely interested in Jung, Myers-Briggs, and being able to actualize what in some ways I really consider the female side of existence. I know I sounded very left brain in my speech, but I'm really with you, Kuhu. And I love your mother. Kuhu's mother is a good friend of mine who was on the W20 from
He's
India
absolutely
last.
wonderful. Yeah, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I really enjoy talking about the Jungian method, mostly because it's out of my domain. I just found it, I stumbled on it. And I think I've fought with many aspects of myself being a woman in that part of tech where there are no women. Like in an org of 100 people, there's probably one more woman. And
Wow.
you question yourself on how to approach, how to talk, whether you're saying the right thing, which you don't say the right thing all the time. But to be able to find your voice, you almost it has to come from within you. So I'm still on that journey, which is why I brought Worley into the picture. I could talk about my work all day.
And
Fascinating.
to that note, Kuhu, actually someone asked if you can answer quickly, because this was actually this is a platform for students to, find resources and opportunities. A question for you was, as you, a AI engineer in NVIDIA, what opportunities are there?
Yeah, I'm the big data platform guy. So I'm the person who sits under the AI model. In order for the AI model to run, I build the framework that it runs on. What opportunities are there and how can we even get there? I think our education system, and this is not an India thing, this is a global thing, it is not as hands-on as it needs to be. There is a structure to it, but we need to do more experiments on our own. So while in the evening we have our cup of chai, we go look at research articles, we read our ACM papers, and we play with tools. To be able to play with technology is the most empowering thing that's missing from education. And I just say that from my personal experience. Maybe people are already doing it. If you're doing it, you're on the right track. If your resume can read 5 projects that you did as the spearheading coder or like as the person who drove that project, you're in good shape. Yes, Virginia, go ahead.
No, please finish.
Also, I think there is a lot of buzz around data science. So what people end up doing is using very high level tools like Python, like notebooks to get started. But I would encourage you to not stop there. Get your foundations right. Like from a computer science aspect, try to understand what really goes on in a data center when I type my little Worley presentation into that notebook, because that's where awareness and real knowledge is. That's where you can start to make a climate difference. That's where you can start doing, taking initiatives that are going to help in the long term. Otherwise, your play doesn't really translate into much. I'll pause here.
Well, if I can just join in, I love AI so much. I just absolutely am obsessed with it. I've been hugely interested in AI for 10 years because of the work I did with IBM Watson and high
Exactly.
growth women's entrepreneurship. But since all of these different models have come on the market, I subscribe to 5 of them, as I said. I can hardly wait to wake up in the morning and rush to my computer and figure out what new thing I am going to learn today. And frankly, I think there is in academia, and I'm a former dean of students at a graduate training program in psychology many years ago, but there is such a bias against plagiarism, laziness, etc. in academia. But if a person is curious, if a person is passionate, if a person cares about solving problems, I mean, literally, I can hardly wait to wake up in the morning and rush to my computer and find out something very important that's new that I would not have been able to have global access to that kind of information. I've been pulling together all kinds of information for women entrepreneurship advocacy at the global level, analyzing blended finance programs and best practices around the world, a whole series of things in terms of access to markets. And you have to validate, because there is indeed the problem with hallucination.
Yes.
But I often use 2 or 3 products together. I do my first scan with Perplexity AI, perhaps. Then I do brainstorming. I mean, I'm almost like a person obsessed. My husband, tells me, stop, I need to have more coffee before we can discuss this. But it just really creates enormous opportunities and enormous challenges. And I think one other challenge we have not mentioned that we really need to look at is the issue of labor displacement and
Yes.
the restructuring of jobs, and new policies that are just so almost unimaginable that I think most policymakers who tend to be older and sometimes stuck in their ways or their historic ways of looking at things, I think it's just transformational. And I really think that women, because of what you depicted in the art, Kuhu, we need to have the women's perspective involved in all of this. And I think the educational system has to figure out how to correctly
Manage it.
incorporate it and manage it and encourage people to engage with it, because we need to make it work for us, not just be on the receiving end. So all of these problems and challenges, we need to work on the solutions.
So let me actually say something rather, it's a thought of mine. I think in 5 years, 50% of what I do will be done by AI. I will use the AI tool to build something, and I will make sure that the prototype works, right? Because you still need a human, like you said. But there are a lot of, like, even being an engineer, a lot of parts of what I do are easily doable by an AI even today. And I think that, like, thank you for bringing up that point, because it's a crucial one as to how do we adapt to it. I don't think we can fight it exactly, but how do we adapt to it? How do we manage it so that it is a positive force? I think another question came up that I tried answering on chat is the AI model, it hallucinates, but it's just based out of data. So how do we make sure that the minority-driven data is getting fed into these data models? That's where we need to plug ourselves in. That's where, if our education system is allowing people to play with these tools, they will have something to say about, about the data, and that will go into these learning models. So I think that's it. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yes, and I'm gonna
Ashley, I want to add a point to what Kuhu said. So I think this is for every student. This is why you're joining the Power of Women conference as well. We worked with B20, that's Business 20, for G20 Brazil. And we were able to actually talk to some of the biggest leaders in the world, in the business world. So we were talking, actually, we have been in communications with Anna Marks. She's the global chair for Deloitte. They produced a report last month that actually shared about the job market. So I'm sorry, I won't say the exact number, but it was over 82 million jobs are going to be lost in the next 3 years. Everything that you're studying for right now might not exist in 3 years.
Exactly.
And the second thing is 86 or something million jobs are going to be added to the market that has never existed before. So this is extremely important that you all become aware, and that's why we're working with even Dr. Rima, UCOST, and Uttarakhand. We have the vice president, the former vice president of the Gambia as well. We will talk to her. We are bringing Africa, South America, South Asia, because this information needs to get out, especially among the college students with the technology rising, AI advancing and progressing more than ever before. Everyone needs to know what's happening with the job economy, the job market. Yeah. So I think you all, if you can all watch the B20 conference, the special segment with Anna Marks, and we have speakers like Gabriel Barros, who is the president of Cisco Networking Academy in Brazil, who's actually working very hard to get these programs out to the people because there's not enough women using them. So it's a very small percentage of women using them, and it's a huge market for women right now, for female leaders. Any one of you, it's a huge market opportunity with the digital space, green economy, and entrepreneurship. I think this is very important. So I wanted to add that. And I want to welcome somebody real quick because she was supposed to join us earlier. We have Her Excellency Fatimata. She's the former Vice President of the Gambia, and she's an incredible female leader that really works on empowering women. And she has incredible connections across Africa that she's going to be bringing on for Power of Women, that we are going to be collaborating. So I know somebody asked a question. So this is what's going to happen the next step. But before that, please welcome Auntie Fatimata. Would love to have you share a few words.
Okay. Thank you so much. I apologize for joining you late. I had not an emergency, but an invitation that came just last night, and I was supposed to be there, which is the launching of our national gender policy, 2025, 2034. And as leaders, we have to jump on every opportunity. Presence is very important because it's visibility. You cannot blame people for not involving you and including you as a leader when your ears and everything must be present. So I apologize for that. And I know that is also very relevant to what we are talking about, the power of women. I would share the policy with the power of women through Shanali, and she can, of course, disseminate that, because I really want the power of women to come to Africa. We are here, I'm Gambian. The population is just 2.1 million, small population, but a lot of capability, a lot of potentials, particularly in the area of women and girls. We established a National Women's Bureau. In 1980, we had national councillors who act as catalysts in ensuring that policy is transformed to respond to the realities of women. We have had a lot of programs in the past that we want to really evaluate and use as a tool for transformative measures to empower women and girls. I'm coming from a background, 22 years of United Nations Development Program. I came to politics in default because I realized that the men, everybody wanted one chair, which is the presidency. And for 22 years, we had dictatorship. There was no way all of them, political leaders, male leaders, can have the chair. So I volunteered to involve myself. And this is also leadership. Don't wait. When you see, create the opportunity or explore the opportunity. And once it's there, squeeze yourself and have your voice heard. So I squeezed myself. And fortunately, because of my credibility, which is very important as a leader, because of my credibility and my contributions to the empowerment of women since the early 80s to now, and my commitment to ensuring that women participate in decision-making at all levels, and also the empowerment, literacy, education, professional training, I decided, I volunteered myself to be the chair of the National Coalition 2016. If you Google 2016, for the past 22 years, we were fighting against a dictator, and finally that was what ushered democratic change in the Gambia. I was appointed the first vice president of that coalition government. But after 1 year, I was removed on political reasons. But I refused to be put at the back seat. I decided through my commitment, I was married at the age of 16, and I struggled with 4 children, went back to university. My early vocation was to become a medical doctor. Either fortunately or unfortunately, I had to divert my course and learn diplomacy, development, peace and security, and governance, of course. And today, I remain relevant. I am supporting programs, not financially, but mentoring young women and other women at different levels, and also trying to create opportunities through my network for them to access opportunities like entrepreneurship, literacy, women's empowerment, and so forth. So I have a lot of the potential for Africa, particularly for the West African coast, is very important. And I have worked across Africa. I was recently in Sierra Leone, brokering peace between the political opposition, the main political opposition, and the government. Unfortunately, under my leadership with ECOWAS, African Union, the Commonwealth, and also UNOWAS, United Nations System, I was able, under my leadership, to bring them together. And they have signed a national unity agreement with very measurable targets and timelines to implement peace and security, because this is a country that has been going through war for the past 7 years. So that's my achievement. In the Congo RDC, I want us to really give focus on the RDC, because as leaders, my little experience shows that we have to work crisscross, not only our countries, but also looking at what happens in other countries, because what happens in Senegal would affect what happens in the Gambia, and of course, Africa as a whole. So in the RDC, there's so much violence, gender-based violence. There is still war between Rwanda and RDC. So my next stage, my next project would be to see how we can mobilize African women with our partners to go to RDC to talk with the political, speak truth. We have to speak truth to the leaders, speaking truth to the political leaders so that they can ensure that there is peace and stability. Because after all, it is the men who create war, but it is us who bear the brunt of war. So I'm also the chairperson of an organization that has over 49,000 approximately 49,000 women and girls. And this is in microfinance, providing them with microfinance. I'm one of the 11 founder members. But while I was away on international appointment, we passed the baton to other management team, and the organization really went almost bankrupt. So I'm again going back. I like challenges, because a leader should be challenged, should measure how effective she is, or how instrumental she is or he is, by ensuring that where difficulties lie, you go plunge into it and see how best you can help the people. Now, my best practices is always using the bottom-top approach. We believe that the rural women, the majority of whom are predominantly the backbone of any development, nation building, sometimes we assume that they don't know. They know. The difficulty they have is the low literacy rate, low educational rate, low skills, to be able to really articulate their priorities. So now we are using, with the little background I have in experience, I am trying to see how best we practicalize the bottom-top approach, evidence-based policies. Just as the policy we have launched today, we made sure that we advocated that they go crisscross the country to ensure that it's evidence-based, because without these policies, there is no way we can be rhetoric. We can just remain at the level of rhetorics, but we will not be able to translate or to achieve sustainable empowerment of women. On that note, I really want to thank you for your patience. I thank you, and I feel honored to be part of you. And I pledge that I will continue to work with you within your separate mandates, within the power of women. And I must say that today I want to thank Shanella and Ashley and David for bringing me on board. I may not be the most powerful, most intelligent or whatever, but you know, opportunities. This is an opportunity for me because it's in line with my dream to really strengthen partnerships between the South and South, between the North and South, because we can never be happy as women if we don't have strong networks. We need to strengthen our networks. We need to speak in one voice. We need to influence national policies. We need to go to the global G20. I'm sorry because I am more French than English, but I hope you understand my English. So the G20, we have to find solutions through the power of women, strategic solutions, practical solutions that will move us from point A to B. Our voices must be heard, we must be visible, and we must be strong and resilient to ensure that not only the voices, but that we move resources, and particularly recommend that the G20 establish a fund for the power of women, for other organizations also, because without economic empowerment, social empowerment, there is no way we can really harness the ingenuity, the talent of women in any position. And our satisfaction is to really bring along those women who are in the rural areas, empower them, let them have a voice. Let's no longer speak as elites, so-called elites, speaking on their behalf. Let them speak for themselves and let us support them. We will be supporters, facilitators, rather than be in the driver's seats. God bless you all. I have not had all the presentations, but just coming at the last end with the conclusions, I have a little gist of my little knowledge of what you have discussed. So God bless women of the world, and God bless the men. We have to also bring on board the men, because culturally in Africa, if you don't bring the men, they will always be, it's a men's world. So realistically, you have to bring them on board. What I have done here is to ensure that our president is for he, for she. And we have worked around Africa to have he, for she. So one of our strategy solutions would also to bring on board, including the G20 leaders, bring them he, for she. If you sensitize them to that level, when they sit at the table, they will remember us. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Auntie Fatoumata. That was incredible. And please, anybody wants to add a comment, please join in. That was amazing.
You are
Yes.
an inspiration.
Yes, I agree. I agree with whatever you say. I mean, you've echoed everybody's voice, I think, over here, because the words that you used were strong, were straight, and they were just from the heart. I think everybody else felt the same. Thank you so much.
More power to you.
Yes.
Trying to see how best we
Great.
Virginia, did you
And
want to add a comment?
I just want to add about technology, please, little bit. The COVID-19 has shown us that we need technology for the women, for the girls, either literate or illiterate. We have to really introduce them. The world is evolving. You need technology. The COVID showed that most of our children were marginalized because they have no access to technology. They have no, when you talk about climate justice, the managers of climate, the manager of natural resources, in terms of gathering firewood and using fuel, are women. But sometimes the policies leave them behind. So we need to look at the G20 must give us funding to ensure that the power of women and all other women networks can help support our drive for more technology, increase access to technology, information and communication, which are not privileges, but a human right. Thank you.
There you go. And thank you so much, Auntie Fatoumata. I think every point you shared was so important. And the conversation was about getting very much about AI, how AI is creating a division and how can we use it for better, for good. I know we went 41 minutes over our original call. Dr. Rima and Ashley, if you want to jump in here about what we need to do next. We had a lot of questions, by the way, in the chat we didn't get to.
Because we have so many questions, we have so much engagement from the students, we should do another one of these. We are happy to continue this conversation. I mean, there's just Kuhu, thank you so much for sharing what you shared. I mean, just tying in art and AI, I think we need to just have one whole session just on that. And with what Virginia mentioned as well, I mean, everybody here, I think, was enjoying the discussion. We definitely need to schedule another one.
And I want to add one more thing. Somebody asked, what is the next step after coming to this meeting? I think we really need to address that. That's exactly what we are working with Uttarakhand, state of Uttarakhand, and Dr. Rima is working with the Power of Women. We are actually going to be doing these digital engagements to collaborate, bringing people from different regions to have mentors come and speak, speakers come and speak. Definitely continuing this as one of the steps. And we're also preparing for G20 2025. And because it will be held in South Africa, and Africa will play a huge role. And we're working with some of the individuals from the South African government to actually start preparing from the DPOW perspective, digital power of women perspective. So would love for all of you to be a part of it, because there's policy recommendations that happen from the civil society, where civil society organizations can have a voice. And there are all other engagement groups that are very specific to certain sectors, like Oceans 20, Business 20, Women 20, Startup 20, that you can actually apply to join as well. I don't know about W20 though. I know some of the engagement groups are not open to the public. So that's available as well. And definitely connect with us, because we want to have your voice be a part of what we are doing and bring other youth from around the world, because we are working with all the continents, basically 5 main continents that has been engaged. And we will share more information through Dr. Rima as well. And I think Auntie Fatoumata said so beautifully, together we can actually have a unified voice, and that's the power of women, having a unified voice. And we have so many men supporting. Today's call had over 40, 3% of them were men. And typically with Power of Women events, we almost every time have close to 50% or more men joining. So that shows that there are so many men supporting us. So we need to recognize them and not see it as we are blaming or trying to take back the power, but look at it from, hey, this has happened. From this point on, how can we work together as a team to fix things and make things better? And that's where even what Kuhu said about art being a point of reflection, we need to reflect on what's happening now, recognize each other and respect and work towards resolutions. So with that, I want to say thank you everyone for joining, and Dr. Durgesh and Dr. Rima, thank you for making it happen. And bringing so many universities from India, just from Uttarakhand, state of Uttarakhand. So, and we have many other universities from India that are joining, as well as from around the world. And if everybody wants to share 1 minute to 30 seconds closing, please go ahead as well. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining and making it such an engaging conversation.
Can I get in for my last comment?
Yes, please. Yes, Dr. Durgesh.
Yeah, because it was absolutely fantastic and so much learning was there. Her Excellency and my co-hosts, those deliberations were fantastic, so much learning. And I was just remembering one thing because this G20 last year's Indian presidency was discussed, and now because this presidency is busy, so I was part of this Indian delegation and for science technology that happened in Uttarakhand. So this science one, and especially for scientific advisors. And one very important point that was mooted from this place was, in fact, I raised that democratization of science and technology so that it could really become inclusive, could reach out to everyone, be it AI, be it all technologies, and how can we really democratize? And that was, again, a a very important narrative from that point of view. Number one is this, and now we can see it, and because STI movement is all around everywhere, and it has taken up so very well. And second point, because we are in Himalayas, for so many students out there, yes, at this SNT council, we can form a group. Maybe we can have something, a very strong group with regard to digital power, and especially for women. We can create a cell, a center. So that is there for certain. So anything you ask for, so we can have this. We can start working on this, and this is going to be something, we a takeaway from this particular this summit. And the one last point being, we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about natural intelligence, but for millions of years altogether, the Himalayas have been seat of consciousness and knowledge. So we talk about Himalayan intelligence all through. So Himalayan intelligence can also become part of this power of women, this thing. We can take this intelligence forward, and with regard to this climate action also, because this is going to be something very crucial. In fact, from global south, we can take it forward. This is all. Thank you very much, because it was a great learning for all of us, and we will take this momentum forward. That is there for certain. Thank you, and to all vice chancellors, to everyone, to all panelists. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everybody. And it was really wonderful. Thank you, Virginia, Her Excellency, Kuhu, Professor Pant, of course, Shanali and Ashley, who have been behind this and the way we've been working on and on. And like you said, yes, we are going to take it forward. And I would request all the vice chancellors and all the people who were connected today to get back, only those who are really interested to just get back to me, and then we can make this group, and then we can continuously work. And already Dr. Pant has given us, very kindly, he's given us this space, a digital space where we can meet. It could be a digital space, basically. You could all come and we can meet once in a month, and then of course connect digitally to all of across the globe. So it should be nice, and maybe we can make it more theme based. So once in a month, like Ashley said, or whatever, we could choose a theme, send it across, and let people come and get connected to it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. And I was wondering if we can get a picture, because I think this was a great session. So let me just get a picture. I just want to move out of the spotlight. You're muted, Shanali.
Dr. Durgesh and anybody else want to be on the picture, turn on your camera, and then we will try to take a screenshot with every one of you.
Yes.
So, I
Okay.
don't, yeah. think we are getting some cameras turned on.
Turn on your cameras. Yes.
Yes, please turn on your camera so we can all be in the picture.
Yay, awesome. Say cheese, everyone. Beautiful. That was so wonderful. For more information, Shanali and others, like Virginia, she's also part of the G20 forum for W20. We have some amazing content on our website. If you go to www.powerofwomen.info, you'll have just a thrill just learning about the G20 processes. So we encourage you to go and check that out now. And thank you so much for joining us. Take care, everyone.
I would also just like to say as a speaker, how fabulous it was to be with the other speakers and to hear the questions from the Indian students. It's so inspiring to be able to participate in something where you know it's not just a one-off, an end of the road. This is an ongoing issue for action, for love, for caring for the planet, for men and women and children on the planet. It's really changed the world stuff. And that's what digital power of women can, should, and will be. Thank you so, so much.
That was amazing. Anybody else want to say one last thing before
Yeah,
we say bye?
Hold on.
Please share one.
Yeah, I would like to say that I concur with my sister Rima, who talked about adaptation of technology. We have to understand that we are in different stages in countries, so we have to really use the word adaptation, appropriate technology and adaptation. And we have to really accompany that with capacity building, probably within a programmatic approach. Then another solution would be the power of women to explore opportunities to establish twinning arrangements between the Indian students and other students of the world, including Africa. That way, the cross-fertilization of knowledge, because I think in terms of digitalization or digital technology, they are in advance. So twinning these arrangements can be institutional arrangements that can really further the educational and the empowerment of young people, of women and girls in Africa and Gambia in particular. Because I say Gambia in particular, because you have to, first of all, test your own ground before you share the best practices with other countries. So I joined my sister, W20, Virginia, Sister Virginia. Thank you so much for your closing remarks. Really formidable. Thank you. And the other solution is that we need to remain in touch. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much.
So Shanali, if I can say one more thing based on what Her Excellency said, and that is during India's presidency of the G20, it was determined that the African Union would also affiliate with the G20 just as the European Union did. This year, we did not have any representatives from Africa who were part of the Women's 20. I don't know if they did partner with some of the other engagement groups, but my understanding is that at least 5 countries will be representing the African Union. I myself am hugely interested in what happens on the continent of Africa as well as in India. And I think it is very, very important that we work on having a deep relationship with students in Africa, both in the Francophone countries and in the Anglophone countries, and that we really build out W20 connections and digital power of women connections, because seeing what has happened with the university linkages in the presentations we've heard today, it is so powerful. And if we can do the same kind of thing in Africa to deal with entrepreneurship, with development issues, with finance issues, climate change issues, STEM, etc., we really can have an absolutely enormous impact. And I think sharing South-South, North-South, etc., and then the magnitude of the impact on this panel, if you look at this panel, you know, where we have academe, we have technology, we have policymakers, we have women entrepreneurship and advocacy, and we have technology through the digital power of women. The term that Her Excellency used that I like so much, I've always called it coalition building, but in your honor, Madam, I will call it crisscross, which I think is so important in terms of getting us all together to work together to really have an incredibly powerful impact. And we've got art mixed with technology, we've got values. It's pretty incredible. Thank you so much for inviting us to be speakers.
Thank you.
And Virginia, last one, the menfolk bow down before,
Mwah!
I mean, before you all. Yes, there's, and salutations to all for bringing this power of women and digital power of women. Her Excellency Virginia, to all of you, thank you so much. It has been a great learning.
And men are so important in making this happen. Male champions of change. Thank you.
We
Yes,
are all
thank
there
you
with
for all the
you.
men. You know, Dr. Durgesh has played such a huge role. So thank you for all the male allies. I mean, you all are our brothers, our fathers, our uncles, friends. So thank you for actually showing up, because it's together we can go really far, and we're strong.
Part of the co-creation and collaboration.
And I would like to just mention that the beautiful coming together with open heart, mind, and spirit makes this happen. But this comes together with the beautiful invitation of the women, and Sonali and Ashley and Power of Women. This is happening, and what a great example of coming together to create new possibilities.
Thank you, David. David is such a significant component in everything we do. So thank you so much, David, for sharing. And this has been we did not think it will go on for 2 hours, but it was such a pleasure at 4 in the morning. I think Ashley and I and David feel so much awake than we did before we started the call. I feel so much energy. I think this is very exciting, and definitely Virginia and Auntie Fatumata, Dr. Rima, we are going to actually, I'm going to introduce all 3 of you. I'm going to connect you all so we can actually take this forward and incorporate everybody who is on this call. And Dr. Durgesh, I'll add you to the mix as well if you want to be with us. But I'll connect all of you, and we will continue this conversation. This is just the beginning, like we said.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
The start. This is just the start.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you so
one.
much.
Bye.